Hello. It's amazing that we normally have this libation in my home. This today's one is, when I say it's special, we call it libation. My producer says to call it libation special. Um, and it is indeed special because we're not shooting at home. We're shooting in we're guests of Afia Radio here in Enugu. Um, and I have someone who's even made it extra special. Um, someone is an incredible, and we're lucky to have her in Enugu this season. Um, I don't know how should I introduce this my guest? Should I just call her Achalugo? Because that's her name. So Achalugo Ilozumba. Did I get it right?
Yes, you did.
Welcome to this special episode of Libation.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So let me begin by I want to ask first question. I always ask every guest who comes on this show is what do you think of yourself as an Igbo person? Or do you even think of yourself as an Igbo person? Because I know
definitely.
someone asked me the other day. I said, "Where's she from?"
I get that a lot, especially as I like to turban my hair. I have a lot of head wraps, so sometimes people are like, "Oh, she looks northern." There's that, but very much Igbo.
But you do get people saying she looks Fulani.
A lot.
Yeah.
I get that more than I get, that she looks Igbo.
But you're Igbo.
I'm Igbo.
Let me do like that guy. Who's that guy? One of my favorite guys in TV in Uganda. So you are Igbo.
I'm Igbo, born and bred in Lagos.
Yeah. Okay. When did you realize that you're an Igbo person? Does that realization come to you?
Oh yes, it does. I think pretty much like every other child, you're growing up and you're beginning to make sense of everything around you. At school, at home, so it wasn't like a one straight path to it. It was a combination of many things. So at home you have people come around. Of course, there's your mom and dad would have visitors and they're not speaking English to their visitors. So you know that there's another language that they're speaking, and then that's Igbo. And then you go to school, and I remember my primary school when we would do this every end of session. We would have cultural dances, and they would say, "Oh, the Yorubas would dress this way, the Hausas would dress this way, the Igbos would dress this way." So when you're classified by that, you two, you're like, "Oh, so we're dressing," and then you go back home. "Oh, mommy, they say we should bring wrapper and 2 wrappers, one for here, one for here." Then you get beads, you do the eye thing, you do all of that. So you begin to know that this is where I'm from.
And
then to add to that, of course, there's the sometimes we would travel to the village in December.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, where are we going to?" Initially, I just knew that there was this journey that we went on every Christmas, and would sleep and wake up, and you're like, "We're not there yet. No, we're not there." And you sleep again, "We're not there yet. We're not there." And where are we going to? "Okay, we're going to see grandma. We're going to see grandma from daddy's side. We're going to see grandma from mommy's side." And then grandma is not in Lagos.
Yes.
So where is grandma? Grandma is at home, as they say. So
when was the last time you undertook that journey?
That was as a child, like you mean with my family.
Yeah.
That was like going with my dad, my siblings. At some point when you begin to have your own family, now you're the one taking your children.
Have you done that?
Oh yeah.
When was the last time you did that?
It's been like 4 years.
4 years. How old are your kids, if you don't mind my asking?
I have a teenager. My boy's a teenager. I have an 11-year-old girl. And I have a girl who's soon be 10.
Do they also have that realization that they're just like you did growing up? Do they now know that they're Igbos or what?
Oh, they do. They do. Same way, school, home, and their names, definitely. Their names are... my first name is actually my English name. But then I had the kids, and they also have English names because you go to church, and some churches insist that they cannot be baptized with their Igbo names. Oh yes, I was asked I was asked to provide the names of saints of the Catholic Church. So we had to provide that, and then they were baptized with those names. But the name that we call them at home, the name that they're called in school, they're called by their Igbo names.
By their Igbo names.
Yes.
It's interesting. I mean, I've just to give you for myself, faith. I was pretty much not born into the church. I
was stilled in the church.
Yeah, I was. I mean, I became a Catholic because I wanted to get married.
So you saw our sister and then said to yourself, "Oh, I want her." And then they said, "If you want her, this is what you have to do."
Something like that. Something like that.
So did you remain Catholic after marriage?
I am still Catholic.
Okay.
In some form or fashion.
But what were you before the?
I don't recall that I was anything. I think religion has never been a thing in my family per se.
Oh.
But I think my earliest memory of my dad never took any one of us to church.
So you didn't have that thing where you would have to, chase the car. Like we had moments on Sundays where my dad would be like, "If I get into that car, the last person," and sometimes he would actually be driving out of the compound and then you'd grab your scarf, your bag, and you're running after the car. So none of that.
None of that. No, none of that. And if I sincerely, I mean, parts of my childhood wasn't. Don't know if I should say here, not glorious, but pretty challenging. But I do not recall any time. To some extent, I would say my dad will say he's a Methodist. Okay. I think he has said that to me, but I've never seen him in any.
What of your mom?
She is now a very strong Christian. Big believer. Sort of. She's not Anglican. She's more Catholic. Even though now, Pentecostal. I think that's what she is now. But I don't have any fond memories of I became a Catholic because you love a woman, you wanted to get married, and this was the major thing
that you had to do.
And her mom said, "I'm quite the joker. I have to do this thing," and I did it. But doing it, I actually have. I would say someone asked me, did I just do it because of that? No, I actually, at a point in my life, I was I was convinced of the faith, my faith in the church, my faith in the intercessions of the saints was as real as I'm seeing you here. I believed in it to that extent. I actually started going to Opus Dei.
Okay.
Yeah, to show you, it wasn't just something it wasn't something that I was.
A flash in the pan.
It wasn't a flash in the pan. But I do know that at least in the last 6-7 years, I've lost my religion. I still wear the rosary that my wife gave me many, many years ago. And it's almost like jewelry. I just put it on. I don't have the same convictions that I used to have. It annoyed her, and it's a big issue even in because she's very, her faith is still unshaken. But do you see that? Because I've also in my interactions with many people over the last couple of years, I'm beginning to see a lot of people. I don't know whether it's a thing of age. When you get to a certain age, certain point in your life, you begin to question a few things. Do you find that shift happening where a lot of people are sort of maybe I can use the word losing their religion? Do you see that happening?
In a sense of it, yes. And but I look at it as, questioning your religion as part of a bigger process. Not that for some people I know that they just go straight to questioning their religion. But I think for some other people, by the time they begin to come into some self-awareness, where you're like, who am I? Why was I born? What do I want to do with my life? Where do I want to be? How many years do I have on earth? And what do I want to do with those years? So by the time you begin to ask those questions, you now begin to ask, what serves me?
Yeah.
What doesn't serve me? What is adding value to my life? What is taking away value from my life? And you'd find that because self-introspection is very hard. You see the good part of yourself and you see the bad part of yourself. And if you're not brave enough to face yourself in the mirror, you could skip on the very good results that you could get from that process. But if you're brave enough and you begin to say, oh, how is this working for me? How is this not working for me? And you're not afraid, you begin to ask questions. So I think by the time, it's like a whole life thing. And by the time you begin with that, it's not a surprise that you also get to the religion part of it. So like for me, I started, by the time I was publishing my first book, I did a lot of research. The book is a Merinzo, The Ones Who Are Real. Yeah. And at the time, I was just coming across, that thing where they say, oh, then call them from village, or they say the deity is calling this person. Nollywood, they will be like, oh, this thing isn't real. But I began to meet certain people who were going through certain experiences. And I was like, this is interesting. I haven't seen any of this in real life before. I want to know what it's like. So I began to ask questions. And then also, I think you also begin to see the flawed nature of religion. I do not think that religion is an entirely bad thing. But I think by the time you begin to see certain flaws in it, when some, indoctrinations want you to see the lead person almost as a replacement of God.
Yeah.
And you tell yourself, no, this doesn't seem right. Or you begin to see church politics. You begin to see some things and you're like, if I have to deal with this in the real life, in the workspace, I think I want to come to church as a place of succor. I want to come here and rest. So if you're coming in there and there's still that whole rivalry, there's still that whole plotting against this person, there's still that whole gang game, oh, this is this person's crew, this is that. If you begin to see all of those things, then you're like, what exactly are we here for? So I had some of those experiences. And what it did for me is, sometimes when I speak, people are like, oh, is she atheist? I'm like, no. If anything, it made me find God better, because I had to say that, God is love, as we're told.
So it's not so much a functional, because in conversations that I'm coming across, because part of the reason why I'm doing Libation is also, and I joke about it, but it's a fact that I've lost my religion, but I'm also in search of more spirituality.
Exactly.
And I'm finding a bit more comfort in going back to my roots, understanding what it means for me to be an Igbo person, and that the sense of Igbo, I wouldn't say religion. The Igbos don't have a religion per se. It's more of a way of thinking, a way of being.
Yes.
And I'm finding sort of, because it's when I ask questions of it, it's so realistic. It's so real. For example, the respect for elders, the notion of that people don't die, people just transit.
Yeah.
And that you should have respect not only for your elders and for people who are living, but even for the people who have passed, ancestors and so on. And I'm finding the contradictions.
Yeah.
So I'm beginning, it's sort of a journey of discovery, and that's really one of the reasons why I have this,
Yes, so to come in there. Yeah, to come in there, like I was saying, I think, I was going to say that I found that God was love. And I found that, God is this person who cannot be boxed into human expectations. There are many definitions of him. There are many perceptions of, and that's why there's not just one religion.
Yeah.
There are multiple ways that people see God. And what questioning religion helped me do was, I didn't say that I would no longer believe in God, or that, this religion is bad or that religion is bad. No, what it helped me do was I began to validate other people's idea of God.
Mm-hmm.
I began to see it as authentic. So if you come to me and you say that you're Muslim, for example, I honor your decision. I honor the way that you've chosen to commune with God. I do not come to tell you that being Muslim is bad. I do not come to tell you that being Muslim is something that you need to convert from.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, this is who you are. That's fine. That's beautiful. If you say, likewise, if you say you're Christian, of any denomination, you go to your Catholic, Methodist, whatever it is, I'm like, love and light. And same way, I also extend that to non-Abrahamic religions.
Yes.
So people come to me and then they say, I'm an Ordinala person. Or, with the Yorubas, you have the Ifa. And I'm like, well and good.
Yeah.
And that's often the problem. Where we're taught that if it's not our own truth, then there's no substance in it. That's where I like to differ. And if you're able to get to that point where you can see other people in their own authenticity, in their own validation of their experience of God, it becomes less difficult for you.
So it's about humanity.
It's about humanity, at the end of the day. So if I'm seeing what you're doing as not something to be questioned, it's easier for me to learn from you.
Yeah.
It's easier for me to see how you find peace in it. And there's so much to learn. So much to learn. So
hold on. I mean, we will do this thing that TV normally asks us to do. So even there's a bit of we say, we're going to break, we'll be back in a second. We're not going anywhere, but we'll go on a break. We'll
go on a break.
We'll be back in a second. So I'm back with Achalugo. I said I was going to ask you this, but I have to ask you this though. Why are you so pretty? I mean, I saw that. Was it that episode where you did with what's that show that?
Visa on Arrival.
Visa on Arrival, and that look you gave to Bobby's character. Mr. Francis.
Officer Francis.
Officer Francis is the problem. But do you? I mean, as
the answer to that
is God. Yeah. No. Well, yeah. Of course.
We thank the Lord.
Yes. And of course, do you work out?
A lot.
Is that how you were just looking like?
You see, the funny thing is, when I started to work out, it wasn't for the aesthetics of it. It was, I ride a motorcycle, and
oh yeah,
yeah,
I remember that.
Yeah. So when I went to riding school, I went to riding school first, and in the riding school, my instructor, he would be like, this is not the place for. You have to be strong. You have to be firm. You're moving, this heavy metal on the road. If he falls down, what are you going to do? We don't want to hear that a graduate of our riding school was on the road standing and then, help me pick my bike. So I remember during one of the training sessions, they intentionally put the bike on the floor and then they said, lift it. And then I was like, hey, I mean, this is not Okada. This is like a proper
bike.
It's like, should I go by the left? Should I go by the right? I moved around it for a bit. And he just said to me, he said, you have to strength train. You have to build your capacity. Yeah. So immediately I just went back home. And with the work, I knew that I couldn't do the gym thing. So it was more of researching how I could work out at home. And, okay, you could buy weights, you could get dumbbells, you could. So I think that was the very first time that I moved into, it was strength training. It was, I want to be, and, in a couple of weeks, I could lift like a 25-liter keg and then carry 2. So when you begin to see the gains, it gets more addictive. I'm like, oh, so I can do this now, I can do that now. And of course, I got my motorcycle and I ride in Lagos. And, I've never felt.
I think I remember the first time
I must have come with a bike somewhere.
Yeah. And I was like, who's this? I've had this thing of people who ride bikes. I think people are suicidal. No, honestly, I see it in Lagos. I mean, because Lagos is not a normal city. The it's not normal, and even driving cars.
No Lagos slander will be tolerated.
Yeah. I mean, I live in Lagos as well, but the craziness.
Yes.
And then to think that someone is on a bike on a vehicle that is not protected, and the way people drive, people just open their doors. People just suddenly, a bus driver just see somebody don't wave his hand and just
and you're like, how are you riding in that?
But I guess once you get into it, your mind and your body begins to anticipate.
And then, like I said, the riding school trains you for that. In fact, one of the very first things they're like, you have to be able to anticipate 2-3 steps ahead. I see a downfall in front of me, and I already know that I cannot expect normalcy from this scenario. So you're taught to drive, or the word ride, defensively. Your bikes, your pipes are louder than usual. You could also rev to bring attention to yourself. Look, I'm in the vicinity. You're also taught blind spots. And it's interesting that I learned blind spots more from learning to ride a motorcycle than the car. I started to see that, look, some BRTs, they cannot see.
They can't see,
So by the time you begin to understand that, you're knowing where to place yourself, where not to place yourself. And I think another thing that helped was I wasn't riding for leisure. The traffic in Lagos was killing me. And I said, I cannot spend 2 hours trying to get from here to here, when by motorcycle, it's like 10 minutes. So I said, I need to find a way to walk around it. And that's why I started riding. So maybe because, it's for me, it's like, I need to go from point A to point B. In fact, I remember then when I had meetings, I would wear my whole riding kit, and I would have meetings with clients. I would put in a dress in my bag. So as soon as I get to the meeting venue or the office, I just quickly go somewhere and change into a gown and shoes, And I'm very happy, like, okay, so this meeting is over. I just go back and I switch, and then I'm heading home. So that was it for me. It wasn't it wasn't like the ceremony of it.
I think that the biker mentality speaks a little bit to who you are. So I think so. I think riding the bike is just an extension of that personality, because you appear to me, Shad, to be, like your name. But let's go back to this question. I'm you talked about, and I know, just very recently we were in a conversation with a group of people who talked about a book written by
Professor
Omey, and talks about After God
is Dibia.
And we had quite intensive conversation with a group of people talking about perception of Igbo spirituality and that, and you've written a book, Mirinzo, which sort of harkens to the essence of actually maybe not spirituality, but harkens to the sort of asks questions about
self identity, spirituality, culture. Why do we do the things that we do? There's a whole lot of questioning that went on in that book.
Is there a conflict? Do you see the way we as for myself, I mean, I'm dealing with that conflict on a day-to-day basis. So that's one of the reasons why I started having this show and conversations with people. Sort of also, perhaps in asking questions, I can ask, so that we can sort of find a way to just get more understanding. Do you see a conflict in being born a Catholic being baptized one, living your early adult life as a Catholic, and the realization of the where you are now in life. Do you is there any sense of a conflict?
There's no sense of conflict within myself. I think the conflict would be more for the people who are trying to analyze me. So there's a definite headache, but that headache isn't mine. So it's more for them. It's more like, oh, she was born into this. Why is she giving validation to this? What is wrong with her? Do we need to call somebody to speak to her? Like, it's their headache. But personally, I have no self-conflict whatsoever. And like I mentioned earlier, I was able to come into this space because I just told myself that, this is who we are as a people. And if I say I want to embrace my culture, I want to embrace my heritage, then I cannot pick.
Okay.
I cannot say I am only Igbo to this extent, but when it stops here, the rest of this I'm not Igbo.
Yeah, because I find that we talked about it just, and I think we had the example of a very well known elderly actor who is a staunch, advocate for culture, Igbo culture, and everything. But he does this thing where, a go for, not go for, doing the cola, not pouring libation. He ends it with in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit, or Nafan Nana Jesus, or something. He brings the Western religion into it. And how do you see that? Because I find that, because you were saying right now that some people sort of who question your being Igbo, for example, in the culture, and they feel that it should not go to this extent. Yes, recognize that you're an Igbo person, but when it gets to the heaven and hell, or gets to the point of recognition of the supreme being and a deity, it has to come from the Western point of view. And so I can be Igbo, but because of my love for wanting to go to heaven, and I have to end my Igbo-ness and then put Catholicism.
So for me, I think that, like I mentioned, everybody can do their mix and match in the way that they do, or in the way that they like. But if we're people of influence, then I think that we also have to be a little bit careful. Some other person may do certain things and get away with it, but if you're seen as a person of authority in a certain space, or if you're somebody who people, look up to and they're like, oh, if this person is doing it like this, then it has to be correct.
Be the right way,
I think if you're in that position, there's a bigger responsibility that is placed on you, So, for example, what I like to say is, if you say you want to do something and you say, oh, I want to do it the traditional way, then do it the traditional way. If you say, oh, I want to do it, the Abrahamic way, then do it the Abrahamic way. I do not subscribe to that thing where we have to take our traditional ways and then subsume, in a sense, it's subsumed by other religions.
Yeah, but someone can make the argument that culture is dynamic.
Yes, it's dynamic. Yeah. It's dynamic. But the thing is, the more you begin to define yourself by certain standards, the more you lose yourself. Like I say to some people, I'm like, that whole thing where, my name is Chioma or my name is Chidima. And then, Chioma, Chidima, Chukwoma, Chukwudima. And I say to people that there's Chukwu and then there's Chi. Then you're now saying to me that, oh, Chi is the short form of Chukwu.
It's not.
So that's the thing.
Yeah,
when we begin to say, oh, it's dynamic, it has moved, it can shift, what you now find is years down the line, there's an erasure of the Chi. There's people would begin to forget what it even was like, what the idea of it is. Because for a long time, you have said that, oh, Chi is just the short form of Chukwu, which isn't.
Yeah.
And then the whole idea of, the veneration of our personal spirits is lost on us. So that's what I mean by we have to be careful where we say that with Western standards, it's dynamic, I can change to this, I can change to that. But what is a little, you could even look at it as a form of neocolonialism in a sense.
It is. I mean, I like, I was telling you that I've, in my interaction with others, because I didn't have a road to Damascus.
So it's like, see the traditional wedding. There really is a reason why it's palm wine. And it can't even be palm wine from 3 days ago. But somebody says, it doesn't matter. Then you go for Ibanko and there's juice inside the cup. I'm like, why? Or somebody pours malts inside. If you want to do the Ibanko properly. Don't begin to dilute it. Don't begin, because there are sometimes people say that, there are bad things that they have to do away with. Then that's fine. Maybe you've analyzed certain practices and you've said, this practice is no longer honor us in this way. And then you can do away with. But why are you changing something that isn't troublesome?
The idea of what is a bad thing.
Yes.
The prism in which we see it is very often colored by, again, the neo-colonialist worldview of what, what it is to be, what is good, the idea of what is good. For example, I had my kids come visit me a few years ago, and they went to a place here in Enugu called Center for Memories, and the lovely lady who's a curator that was, taking them around and telling them stuff about Igbo deity, Igbo cosmology. And I remember my daughter coming back and said, "So, but when she's not the devil," I'm like, "No."
Yeah.
But that's what she's been told, that, And I'm like, "No, it's not. It's not." She said, "Wow, that she didn't know."
Yeah, Ekwensu is not the devil issue for the Yorubas. Yes. It's not the devil, and that's one of the things that
we don't even have the.
It's the translation.
Devil. Yes, it's the
translation. I think by the time they wanted to translate, those were the deities that were closest to the imaginations of, this is, and you see that thing with the devil thing. I think over time, I don't know if it has done more good, than bad. I was saying to someone yesterday that there's some people that really, really need a reason to be good people. Yeah. If there's no fear of hell,
there will be.
Yes, for some of those people, they do not have the ability to self-regulate, so they need it. But some other people, they use it as an escapism for accountability. So you do something wrong, obviously very wrong, and then it's the devil.
It's the devil that pushed me.
It's the devil that pushed me.
I was on my own.
I'm like, no, it's you. It's you.
Sorry, sir, it's the devil that made me.
Yeah.
You hear that all the time. It's a stupid. I
think it's just that thing where we just, sometimes need.
So how do you manage? Because we've been talking about this now. So you've come to this realization of, if I can sort of summarize it, your religion is humanity. Is that correct?
There's the spirituality. I've been able to separate religion from spirituality. Okay. So my problem with identifying by religion is that I don't like being put in a box. It doesn't sit very well with me, because if you say I am this, then if you now see me doing some other things, yes, because of that box that I have ticked, you now want to come and hold me to some form. You want to chastise me. I was saying earlier in the year, I had made plans to attend the Osho Festival, and just by speaking about it, some people were DMing me and they were like, "Oh, you want to go for that demonic thing? Aren't you Christian?" So that's my problem.
Yeah.
Because you think that, okay, she's this, she's identified as this. Then if we see her at this place, there's a problem. She's not leaning, she's not staying well in where she should be. So I'm like, please, just see me as me.
So you don't like definitions?
I don't like definitions at all.
Yeah, but you're a lawyer. Lawyers.
I'm a legal practitioner. It's my practice. Is how I bake my bread.
But then a world without definition isn't that scary?
Definitions are good. They can help your understanding. For example, if I have my definition of you, I think it's more of my use. My definition of you is for my use. It's not for your use. So it's fine if you want to define me. The problem is where you now begin to say that I must conform by your definition of me.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I now begin to have a problem.
How will you define me?
It's a whole lot.
No, just give me.
Okay, well, with everybody, there's the entrepreneur part of you, and then right now in this conversation, there's the lost religion part of you. So right now, for the context of this conversation, I can define you as someone who is questioning. Someone who is trying to find their way, someone who is trying to make sense.
At almost 60. Some people will say,
oh, age is nothing when it comes to things like that. I think it was a good realization for me when you were like, oh, by 20, this has to happen. By 30, that has to happen. I was laughing at my friends.
Adulthood.
Adulthood. And we're like,
realize that.
Yeah, we're like, so when we're younger, we used to look at all those aunties in their 30s that, these women, they have their shit together. But then here we are. We're now those aunties. And, there's the realization that you're also still questioning.
Yeah.
You'd always be questioning. Some people 60, 70. In fact, I think the older people get, they are more comfortable with questioning because the consequences are less. There are few people who are able to tell a 70-year-old, why are you doing this?
Yeah, true.
As compared to when I'm 25. They're like,
let's just respect him, yeah.
Let's respect him. So I think because of that, there's less peer pressure.
Yeah.
There are less things. So it's easier for them.
You're absolutely right. I mean, honestly, I don't think that I've found the answers. I'm even just still, asking questions. I constantly struggle with, just the other day I was, just because of, culturation, religion, I find myself, how do I explain it? I found myself, something happened or I read something and instantly I said, oh my goodness. And I did the sign of the cross. And when I did it and I said like a short prayer, Catholic prayer. And I said to myself, maybe it's something you said you're no longer.
I get that.
You're no longer practicing. And I reflected on it a little bit. But I said to myself, it's like muscle memory of sorts.
Yes.
It's something that I've done for practice for many, many years. It's my first reaction to something that just, a bit of bad news, a bit of tragic news, and it's just my body, just like my senses default. Reacting to it. It's my default. Do you think that we have been, as Black people, that we've been baked into that default?
It's our reality. You look at some countries that weren't colonized, and not every country was colonized. You look at those ones that weren't colonized, you could see a bit of a difference as compared to colonized countries. So a part of our story was interrupted by colonialism, and it's something that we cannot erase away.
Yeah.
So the moment we're like, okay, this is what happened. We had an infiltration of an additional language, additional religion, additional way of thinking, and then it's existed for generations after. So there's the passing down of it. And at the end of the day, when you speak of your heritage, you speak of your heritage as an African person. It's also part of what has happened in your history, that you were colonized.
Yeah.
So you cannot be the same way that you were before that.
True.
True. So the moment you make peace with it, I think and then you also have to ask yourself and say, if I want to begin to pay more attention to, Ordinary, the parts of my other religion that I have been raised in, or that I have been raised in, or that I have lived all my life, how much of it is actually offensive? How much of it has wronged me? So I believe that people have to, that thing I said earlier about introspection, you have to know why you are doing away with a thing. I should not do away with something just because
to follow a trend or
or
movement. It's conviction.
Yeah, it's conviction. And that's why I say to people, I say, you would still see people. My sister did her wedding, and when the bridesmaids are like, hey, I want to do makeup, one of the earliest bridesmaids in the church that day was her Muslim friend. And the girl was in front. She sat in front of it. And we were like, oh. And she's like, it's my friend's wedding. And I'm on her bridal train. I have to honor her.
Yeah.
So she came, stayed throughout the mass. There was no, oh, I'm like this, oh, I'm like that. So you find that if you come to that place where you're able to just honor the truth in everything that you find, honor the God in it. So if there are certain aspects of, Christianity, that you feel like the way it is being practiced, I have a problem with this part of it, you can decide and say, look, this aspect of it, counts me out. But some other things that I find peace in, the Lord's Prayer is a beautiful prayer.
It is.
I don't think that somebody should say, oh, because I'm now going to ordinary, I can no longer say the Lord's Prayer. I think we have to come to that place and just realize that I can be.
I think that for me, it's the realization that life is itself a series of contradictions. It's complex and it's contradictory. At some point, you just, you have to.
Yeah. So, for example, now, I have no problems with, our Father, the Lord's Prayer, like I said, beautiful prayer. Some other prayers, amazing. Church, I will be there. You invite me, I'll be there. I'll be in the front. I say to people that you invite me for your wedding, I would most likely be in the church than the reception. So with that, what you now find is that you come into this place where, it's okay. Why not? If you say, I want to do with this, you now ask yourself, why should I? Why shouldn't it work for me?
So in a way, it's like when we see this gentleman doing the colonnade and ending it with, in Jesus' name we pray.
That's where I have a bit of a problem. That's the thing. That's why I'm saying that you don't have to take this one and bring it into this one for it to be valid.
Yeah. It's valid on its own.
It's valid on its own.
Each one is valid on its own.
Yeah. Follow that way.
Yeah.
You don't have to change the Igoji way because you want to do like this. The way you want to say this prayer, say this prayer. The way you want to do this one, do this one. And because you find that most times you're not taking from the Western one to validate it by the traditional one. It's always the traditional one
that has to accept the Western one.
Exactly.
Yeah, which is a big point. I saw an interesting. I'm just going to ask your take on this. Some days when I can't sleep, I just enter TikTok.
Interesting. Who would have thought?
Believable, but I am. And I have this thing where I saw something. You know how algorithms are like spiritual. Saw something from this guy. I think he's a Nigerian guy. He was talking about. Was responding. He had done a previous video. Was responding to someone who had said that Africans deserve to be colonized, that we're not modern, that we should be grateful to Ndiocha and so on and so forth. And then look at the way, we were just backward people, something like that. And this person was referring in terms of religion. I look at the cathedrals that they built in Rome, in basilicas, in Vatican, and so on and so forth. These giant buildings. And there's something this young person said that struck me. And he said, look, in their own religion, because he asked a fundamental question that why, in their own religion, they felt that they had to build God a huge mansion up to the sky because they are God. It was to prove to them that God is bigger than, and they're going up. But for us in Africa, we look at our gods on the ground. He lives in a home with us. Sometimes we cut him from a tree. Sometimes and it's not a question of we don't
Is
see.
that your God?
It's
exactly.
Yeah.
Or
We don't see. We don't have this distant
physical representations of certain.
We don't have this distant relationship with our gods. And first of all, the first one we have is our personal chi, our personal. And so we don't have a distance. We don't build a huge monument to them. So we had no need. Actually, that's the point he was making. We had no need to build a cathedral, a basilica for our gods. We had absolutely no need. And even when in previous civilizations, when the Africans wanted to build, you can look, and he said you can look to the Egypt and the civilizations, the Egyptian old civilizations in Egypt and Sudan that built huge monuments and pyramids and so on. But we, the Africans, in this part of the world, we absolutely did not see the significance of building. And if we wanted to, we probably could have built it. And he pointed out someone in the comments said, absolutely, that's so true, because we had, whether it's in the Benin dynasty, where they built significantly, or Ibuku, where they built significantly intricate works of art. They were done 3,000 years even before these guys even invented the tools to make the things that they did in Europe. So the things we valued, we created works of art, and we didn't concern ourselves with building huge cathedrals because it was just not our thing. I don't know. Do you share the same sentiment in terms of how we see our religion and what we should do with our religion?
I think sometimes people are able to express certain opinions with the comfort that hindsight gives you. You're able to say it because you've looked now and you feel like, development-wise, we're lagging behind. That's why you're able to say it. But if we weren't, then you wouldn't. But I think it's all a hindsight thing. Like I remember secondary school, it was, the doctors, the engineers, the pharmacists, lawyers. Those were the very big people. And today, some people who, at the beginning of social media, say, you're always on your phone. You press too much. You're doing this too much. You're posting too much. Now they're making money from content creation. And it's only in hindsight that you're able to say, I should have stuck to this. Or I would never have thought that. But then if they didn't become what they are today, if it didn't become what it is today, you would continue to say that these ones are wasting their lives. See now, there was a time everybody wanted to be in tech. I don't know if tech is still there because it just moves in phases. You just wake up and then everybody's like, is this way? Even the doctors, the engineers, everybody's like, tech. So I think at the end of the day, the more important thing would be what you're doing with what you have. Because that's what's going to count. That's what's going to count 50 years from now, 100 years from now. It's very difficult to count in the moment.
Yeah.
So it's at the end of it that there was a time that it was very, cool in Lagos or other parts of the country to have, this church building is big like this. This. But now, some of the conversations are like, why are we building more churches? Why aren't we looking to industrialization?
Yeah, there are more churches than
factories. That's now the conversation.
If you go to Uyo, Akwa Ibom State, the number of churches you will see, it's incredible. My producer is telling me again, producer, what is it? We should go on break. Let's sell advert. You better sell the advert too. Okay, so we'll be back shortly. Also to give us time to stretch, because this is a long conversation. Chalugo. I really love that your name. It's such a beautiful name. It's very, like you said, names are extremely powerful. Mm-hmm. My son has this thing. I remember, his name is Chukwemeka, my first child. So, but people call him.
Why Chukwemeka? This need for all of you to duplicate yourselves.
It wasn't. No, it wasn't my intention. My name is Emeka, and this is the story. My name.
It's Chukwemeka now.
It is Chukwemeka, but people call me that, and that's maybe the day I want to go and run for election, and see Emeka Chukwemeka, I say, it's not the same person. But anyhow, but this is the story. So we go somewhere. I think it was like 7 or 8 then, and someone's calling him Junior. Mm-hmm. And he just ignored the guy. He obviously just a few of us in the Junior. Oh my God, I cannot but Junior. He's looking at the guy. So then the guy turns to me, "My God, this is your son. He's very stubborn. Mm-hmm. Are you not the one I'm calling?" He said, "That's not my name." I said, "But you're Junior. Your name is Chukwu." He said, "Your name is Emeka." I said, "No, my name is Chukwemeka. Mm-hmm. My name is not Junior." Mm-hmm. And the guy was like, "How come this your boy is stubborn?" I'm like, "But that's true. His name is Chukwemeka. His name is not Junior." Mm-hmm. And when you ask him his name, when we got to your place, you asked him his name, he says, "My name is Chukwemeka." And then you proceed to be calling him Junior. And he's like, "Nah, I'm not having it." But your name is, I love that name. I also love, the other thing I love about you is this your book. I stole a copy from Yinka. We have our mutual friend.
Okay.
And what inspired you to write that book?
Like I said, I was in that questioning moment, and most times.
But you're such a young person. You never see life. What are you questioning?
You see that thing? I don't think it looks at your door before it knocks.
See?
Yeah, it's just like, it's your turn. I'm here. It's not looking at how do you. So as I was in my questioning moments, and with a lot of things, I turned to art. Okay. I'm like, okay, so how best can I do this? Especially when you want it codified, when you want it, you always want to go back to it. So usually the way I address issues, you would find a book from me, or a poem, or a stage play, or that's just my. So I think naturally, because I'm writing, I'm like, okay, it's going to be my debut novel, and in that book, I want to question these conflicts that you have. Mm-hmm. I want to look at, when we were growing up, what people thought of African spirituality and the various misconceptions of it. Some people are like, the moment you're like, "Oh, Ogwego," I'm like, "No, Ogwego is not Igbo Odinana. It's not
at all."
But those are things that you wouldn't know if you do not decide to say, "Oh, I want to interrogate this." So there were things like that. There were certain gifts that, people are like, this person has a very good knowledge of herbs. It's in their family. Mm-hmm. Some people say that, in their lineage, they are the ones with cure for snake bites. Some people say that, my dad was a dibia. And, so all of those people, I was like, if those people are still there, even in our contemporary times, then you cannot erase it away. You cannot say that they do not exist. So if I'm saying that they exist, then I want to question it. I want to know what their life is like. I want to know what their realities are like. And I did that with the book. The protagonist, Olivia, a young lawyer in Lagos, quite coincidental. If you ask me, a young lawyer in Lagos, and she's just living her life.
You were not, because you were not somehow.
I've been accused of writing a coded biography with that book. And when I think about it, I'm like, if you think, because my main character is gifted with the power of rainmaking, or with the gift of rainmaking, I'm like, if you think I have that, don't you think that on some days I wake up and I do not feel like going to work, I would make sure that there are thunderstorms around Lagos. So,
it's been raining badly. But,
so many things in that book. And in fact, she goes to meet a Dibia in the book, and the moment she meets him, she's taken aback. She's like, oh, this is what I thought of Dibias. But then you see, I mean, we were talking of Professor Ome's book yesterday. That's a professor, and he's a Dibia.
Yeah, it's actually a professor of urban planning,
exactly,
regional planning, or something like that.
You know, and I've interviewed Babalawos who are PhD holders, master degree holders. Their English is fluent, everything is, you know, so it's a different reality. You now have to, it's almost as if you now have to play catch up. You know, so she meets the person in the book, and, you know, he even chuckles at first. He's like, oh, so this is what you thought? Well, this is what we are. And he begins to explain to her and say, look, you can balance this out. You can be this and you can be that. Nothing has to give way for the other. But this is how you can do this better. You know, so there was, as I mentioned yesterday on the earlier show that we had, I said that, you know, beyond the spirituality of it, there were also everyday realities that I questioned. So, for example, the main character's younger sister got married before her. And you find that if you're Ada, that's almost like an abominable thing. People would cause you grief. It's like, so you were there, your sister went to get married, and on the wedding day, I attended my friend's wedding. My friend's younger sister's wedding. And on that day, I saw such unfair pressure on her. She had to smile even when, you know, smile more, because if your teeth is not shining, like, you're not happy for your sister. Oh, you wish you would want to go married first. You know, so there's that whole pressure. And I approached it in the book. I was like, let's look at this. Why do we think that? Guess these days, millennials, some Gen Zs, they don't even want to get married.
Yeah, I mean, that's...
They don't want to... Some of them are like, oh, I'm going to be child-free.
That's a whole new...
It's a whole new thing.
Yeah. Interesting. I mean, and then, so how do you let me form the words in my mouth carefully. Not that there's anything there, but let me just attempt. You have this... Do you get pressure, the expectation of doing more, being more?
In what context?
In the context of, say, family, say, your work. Do you feel pressured to achieve? Do you feel that I'm good where I am?
I don't think anybody says that they're good where they are. Because there's always that next step you want to take.
What's the next step?
I mean, you want to write more books. You know, you want to write more books. You want to climb career-wise. You want to get more degrees if you can. And if
you want to get more degrees.
If you see the need for it.
But do you want to get more degrees?
Yes.
What kind of degrees do you want to get?
There's a PhD looking somewhere in. And funny enough, I always say to myself, if I do that PhD, it's definitely going to be around this as well.
So will you be teaching then? Or just want to be answering?
You know the funny thing?
Want to be answering doctor?
I wanted to be a lecturer.
Oh, yeah?
Like, I went to Unilag and I was like, oh, when I'm done, I'm coming back to teach here. And then I finished. I don't think I knew the realities of lecturers at the time. So when I was done, and then after NYSC, and then they're like, this is how much they're getting. I said, that's the money you're getting. And you're now doing the headache of strikes. I'm like, no, I want oil money. I want to go to the oil. I want to go and eat oil money. You know, so there was that. But I do take the opportunities that I've had to teach in a non-academic environment, and I always grab it with both hands. I love to teach. You know, sometimes I'm called to do. I also have a postgraduate in advertising. So I've had moments where companies say, come and do like in-house training. You know, so my best moments are preparing my PowerPoint slides, coming and teaching. You tell me, come and teach children this, or writing, you know, whether it's work, whether it's the legal work of it, whether it's brands and communications, I'm always eager to teach, always happy to teach. Yeah, so maybe, who knows, somewhere in there, you know,
that's interesting.
I might end up a lecturer.
You have, I see you put in your bio that, let me read that part. Say your favorite day spent with your kids at the beach.
At the beach, yes.
Motorcycling and gardening when she isn't practicing law. and you what is it? Beach water. What's your fascination with water bodies, really?
I think water bodies are peaceful.
Really?
You've not been around them.
Have you seen the Atlantic Ocean? I think it's peaceful. See what the thing does.
What part of the ocean are you at?
Any water that's bigger than my bathtub is.
Oh no, I find very serene moments. I mean, when I was in Unilag, I was always at the lagoon front. It was where I liked to read.
So the water spirits, were they calling you?
No, but don't you like the water?
To drink?
Are you afraid of water?
Occasionally to brush my teeth.
You don't like going to the beach?
I mean, I like to be at the beach and be watching the water.
You should go into the water. It's very.
I did. I tell you what.
You didn't find it calming?
No. It was frightening at first. So I think it was 2020. Was it 2020 or something? So we'll go on a holiday. I was learning how to swim. Thing with black man and entry.
Your adult age.
Yeah, I was learning, and I got thrown into the Indian Ocean. Secondhand.
Who threw you in?
My kids.
Wow.
So let's go snorkeling.
And then you went snorkeling.
I did.
And they pushed you into the water. It's a testament to the kind of father that you are now. Some of us could have tried it in the years past.
I took in some water, but I found that one of the things, like the swim coach used to say to me,
face your fear.
Face your fear, and relax. And he did the experiment, and I realized that it's so true. Once you tense up,
yes,
because it happened when I fell into the water. And I had the
so even with the vest, you were still struggling.
I was still struggling, and the guy said, "Just relax." And I remember what the swim coach says, "Just relax." And when I did, I actually closed my eyes and just it was like peace.
Yes.
But then of course this is look down to see the marine life, So you're already in the water, so might as well enjoy
You're like, one pandemic at a time.
So I looked down again and all the then I panicked again, and it was a bit embarrassing because they tied us with ropes, so that
they would pull you back.
in. But it was. I have this. I wouldn't say it's not love-hate. I love the water. I love. But maybe because of the fear of not being a swimmer, not being a good swimmer, I just I have this mortal fear of drowning.
I think maybe
Yeah.
It could have come from not swimming as a child.
Yeah.
Like my kids, I had that fear of swimming as well. So what I did for them was, as little as I'm like, you're entering that water.
Oh, I did that too.
Yeah. So I my kids swim in the deep end and I can't. So when they're there, and then they're like, "Oh, mommy, come." I say, "I want to stay where my leg can stand." But they don't have that fear, which I think is a good thing. Fear cripples.
Yeah, fear is a horrible thing. I did even in at home the first time. They love doing that thing to me. These young children. So the pool in the house, the deep end. So they push me in. We were just having like a weekend. It's like a barbecue thing, and push me in. But I was fortunate. It's not a deep pool. I think it's maybe like 6 something. The thing I did was to hold my breath, walk to the shallow end.
All is swimming.
but this is I've gotten a bit. I would say better, but I've lost my since I went into the Indian Ocean, and I've done it I've done the snorkeling thing now twice. Did it 3 times actually. So every time we go to the coast, Mombasa, Kilifi. I get into the water, go on their dhows and go see dolphins, and okay, absolutely enjoy it. It's very peaceful. So I'm losing that
fear. Speaking of the children, what's religion like for them? Because you mentioned earlier that your dad wasn't taking you to church.
So, and I'm not doing the same thing as.
Oh, you did not also take them to church.
Well, for the years that I was for almost 20 years, we will.
Okay.
We will, I did that diligently. We go to mass and do everything.
So what's their own I think, what would you describe their own experience as right now? Are they also questioning with you?
Of late, my daughter she's the one who's a bit more, I won't say questioning per se, but she's maybe open to maybe because of me, and she would ask me, did you go to mass today? I'm like, no. She says, okay, I understand. My other kids, you didn't go to mass, why? But she's like,
with her there's no condemnation.
Yeah, there's nothing. She doesn't. Yeah, it's like, okay, cool. So what did you do? I'm like, just sat at home listening to music. She said, that's great. If I had my way, I would probably do that. So for her, it's a bit more open to. But generally, they're not. I wouldn't say they're conservative. They have open-minded about, but they see it as a duty. It's a religious duty, obligation. That's part of life, part of their life, I suppose, and that they have to do it. But I don't think that it's something that they don't evangelize it. They don't push somebody. Oh, you must go to church. You must do this. You must do that. They just do their own thing, and I like them for that.
In your personal space, now we've seen the opinion of the children, but beyond that, like for your friends, are there friends that you sit with, and with them you're like, well, let's think about this thing. Are you also do you have friends that are questioning with you too? Do you have friends that are beginning to look at religion in a certain way, or are saying to themselves, oh, let's look more into this or the other thing?
Yeah, I do. I have a couple of, even here in Enugu, I have a couple of friends who we every time we talk about it. In fact, a very close friend of mine, his name is Kobino, is one of the people who convinced me to take the traditional title. I was like, I do have, I think again it's with age. Like we're talking, you get to a point in life, you sort of, you've lived life, and you see the contradictions of life, and you decide, or you come to the realization that things are not exactly the way.
Straight jack.
Yeah, they're not. Yeah, and also we do have that conversation. I have my friends, a very close friend of mine, one of my closest friends, Taju Makin, for example, believes more in wine than anything else. Taj is a Muslim, but brought up in surroundings where he doesn't really, you cannot tell that he is a Muslim. Not for anything, it's just like a human being. You don't see him, he wants to go and pray, he will excuse himself, goes to pray. He doesn't tell you, I'm going to pray. Or excuse
What's that
me.
whispering? Are we doing badly with time? Oh, okay.
Don't mind them. It's our show. Shabi is on the internet. When people tired, they will pause it and they'll go and do something else. Hopefully they come back to it. So, so Taj he doesn't tell anyone, oh, I'm Muslim or this. Occasionally, during Salah, because he will send you meat. And of course,
the beauty of the diversity.
But I think, let me ask this question.
How many more questions do you have?
Just two more.
Okay.
Two more. Very, very, very important question. Of course, you're an author. You write books.
I write books.
Yeah.
I write for stage. I write for TV.
Yeah. And you're an actor.
Yes.
Only you. You're a playwright. Actor.
I told you earlier that I don't like boxes.
You're a lawyer.
I want to do this. I can't do it. If I can't do it, I can't.
Biker too. Who's your favorite author now?
Who's my favorite author?
Mm.
That's a difficult question.
Okay, give me a list of 5. And the books that growing up that sort of made you say, "Oh, when I grow up, I'm going to write."
I can give you a list of books.
Yeah.
I won't give you a list of authors.
Okay.
And of course, when I speak of the books, you would know who wrote them. So, The Concubine.
Oh.
Yes.
Interesting.
The Concubine was one of the first, African writers series books that I read, and it's interesting that there's a little bit of with Ihoma, is there a spirit husband thing?
Yeah.
I found The Concubine very interesting, and it was a book that I always went back to read. Or in fact, I used to say, I think it was the time I tweeted, I said, if anybody's doing a film adaptation of The Concubine, you better come and let me do a read and see if I can play that character. So I liked The Concubine. I like, let's see. I'm trying not to.
No, in no particular order. So
okay.
just, yeah. Okay. There's no.
With stage plays.
Yeah.
One of my most memorable stage plays is The Trials of Brother
Jero. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, I think I have.
It's the age of the internet.
The age of the internet? I have this. Okay. The Trials of Brother Jero, and that's by Professor Wole Soyinka.
Yeah.
And I found it was just so realistic. It was so real. You could imagine, because when you read some things and the nuances are familiar, it's very easy to come with them. Let me see, which other book. I'm taking some time.
Do you
I'm taking some time.
So do you like, I love magical realism.
Why I'm taking the time actually was I wanted to know if it was okay to say 3, 4, 5 would be Buchi Emecheta's books.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So Slave Girls, Second Class Citizen, I had a lot of, I think Buchi was, I could say that she's been a heavy influence, in terms of there's some boldness with which she approached her work.
Okay.
And, some people read and they're like, oh, does this sound like her life? Is it her life? Is it not her life?
So I see what you mean by you say she's.
Yeah, so there's this, and I think when you're able to write at that level, where you just give into the vulnerability, where putting out the work is more important than bordering, as to people's interpretations of the story. I think that's a very, it's a very strong.
I have.
So this is me speaking more about books from my childhood. Yeah.
I have one of the books that actually touched me. It's this late Colombian author Gabriel Garcia Marquez. I read, obviously I'd read Amos Tutuola's book, and then I read this book, 100 Years of Solitude, and I'm like, oh my goodness,
Last question.
How do you manage? I mean, your mother, 3 kids, I believe. Is there any more on the way?
Back to sender.
What does that mean?
Yeah, like if you wish me one extra child, you get one extra child.
Okay, let's cancel.
Let's cancel, right? Okay, I think, of course, with motherhood, I think there are phases of it where certain things are easier than the other, but you get to a different phase and it brings a whole new kettle of fish with it. What has worked for me is one day at a time. I think if I knew that earlier on, it would have helped. Like, I remember when I first had my son, and you go on maternity leave. I had this, I'm missing out on something, by being at home nursing the baby, and then you resume work, and then you're like, I'm missing out on nursing my baby. By being in the office, I'm missing out on being there for the children. So there's just that conflict, and you realize that you want to grow in your career. You also want to be a present mother, and sometimes those two things, So what has just helped? Yeah. What at certain points, I've had moments where I've had to take certain jobs just because they were more flexible. Those jobs where it wasn't like they were going to advance me, but I was like, rather than just not doing anything, I could take, this job that maybe is closer to the house. It's easier for me to get home in time. It's easier for me to have time for homework. There are moments where the children are younger and you have to make those sacrifices. There was a point I didn't have any nannies whatsoever, and it makes things more difficult. Then you have to, I think I went to the office and I said, I want unpaid leave. I might need a little bit of time. I might need like 2 or 3 months to put myself together. Please let me still work for you, but it's okay. Unpaid leave, let me not. Yeah. It's fine not to get any salary. So those are things that you'd have to.
And then living in Lagos.
And then
how is it like living in Lagos?
It's all part of it. Being a mommy in Lagos, living in Lagos. Lagos is so fast paced. But the funny thing is, we come out and we whine about Lagos, but when we're out of Lagos, I was saying to someone yesterday, I
miss Lagos, yeah.
I said, God, Enugu has had me. Enugu has had me for 2 days. I want to go home, But when you're in Lagos, you're like, I need a break. I need to get out of Lagos. I want to.
It's like a drug, isn't it?
You're like,
Lagos is it's like a drug.
I schooled, all my education was in Lagos.
Yeah.
I did my NYSC in Lagos. I went to law school in Lagos.
So
if you want to start saying Lagos is this for me, there are some actions you've taken that is a lie. You'll be lied to yourself. And then back to the motherhood question, I also have to say that tech has helped. Like being away now, there's
you can do video calls. You can
do video calls. You can talk to them. I have this app that allows me to lock their phone from here. Sometimes when I just want to do, I can see what you're doing. I just go to my phone.
True.
Yeah. So there's all of that.
The technology of parenthood.
I'm telling you. And then you also know that I think I'm very aware that maybe from my parents as well, that a time will come when, they're not there like they are now. So I'm living in the moment.
True.
I'm cherishing every day.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I want to thank you for... You didn't ask me any questions, so I like it like that. But do we have time for one more question? We don't.
I'm going to come back to Enugu.
You have to.
I'm going to come back to Enugu.
I mean, like, there's a... Okay.
It's a bit too quiet, though.
You didn't follow this. Because you didn't follow you're following Kelechi. If you followed these boys inside town, you will understand that Enugu is not quiet.
Kelechi has been good for my peace of mind.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on this special episode of Libation.
I'm going to close the show because
yes, I think she should close the show because so let her close the show.
That's my camera, yeah. Good. So I'd like to thank all of you for being with us in the past, I think, 1 hour of this special edition of Libation. My name is Achalugo Chioma Indozumba, and I have been having a very wonderful conversation that has gone through African spirituality, religion, life, living with the very chief, Chief Emeka Mba of Afia TV. With Chief Omifuku 1, the whole Igbo land. Yes. Not just here. No. How do you feel? It looks like uneasy lies the head.
Don't mind them.
That's a heavy red cap.
The title is Omifuku of Dioka. Dioka. And Igbo land. But first, Dioka.
Dioka first.
Yes.
That's a heavy red cap.
It is.
But it's fine.
It's heavy. It's heavy.
Okay.
But it's okay.
Thank you so much. Looking forward to another special edition of Libation Special. But until then, you can continue to look forward to other editions of Libation. Thank you.
Thank you.